I know that often when we are talking about happiness, that we all have a different understanding of what is meant by happiness. And I don't know whether you've seen the quote that I posted up that is from Monsieur Ricard. Happiness is a scale, emotional balance is a scale, compassion and altruism are skills. And like any skill, they need to be developed. That's what education is about. Okay, and this is something that we often don't realize, that when we don't feel happy, that we think, okay, there's perhaps nothing that can make us feel happy, or whatever we do or done in the past has not created a sense of happiness, so we easily give in and stop. And maybe it was not the right angle or the right perspectives that we've taken on exploring happiness, or the right understanding of what happiness is. And if we treat happiness as a skill to start with, then that means that we need to actually develop it, we need to practice it, we need to explore it, and we need to sort of bring our awareness inside to investigate what that is about happiness, and also to perhaps let go of the attitude or belief that when we are happy, then there is no suffering at all. But talking about suffering, the essence of the practice of happiness can be really about transforming suffering into happiness, although there will be always suffering. And I know this could be a little bit confusing, and that is something that we want to actually start exploring through the practice. I mean, you perhaps have found yourself reading a lot of books, doing a lot of meditations, talking to different people, doing particular happiness groups, or listening to podcasts, what happiness is about. And in the end, you may have experienced you're still sort of kind of stuck with, okay, what is happiness and how can I create it? And what if I don't get it? So I think we need in all of this to continue understanding that there is always suffering, and the suffering will continue. Um, and this could be already the hint, right? So once we accept, okay, suffering will continue, then maybe when we kind of don't get a sense of happiness or experience of happiness, maybe then we understand, yeah, that's part of it, rather than thinking that we are doing or you doing something wrong in the practice, that you are failing at happiness. And that's quite kind of a very unhelpful, dangerous thought, because it gets you into the narrative. And once you're into that narrative, believing and making reference to self, I'm not good at this, I can't even create happiness, there must be something wrong with me. It could easily spiral down to that extent that you think, okay, you're not worth it, you should better give up, give in, and not pursue it at all. Understanding that enjoying happiness doesn't require that we have zero suffering. So both will be there. It is about how we relate to suffering. I think there is one of the ways into explore suffering from a different angle and investigating it. And that in itself is part of the art of happiness that may create some happiness as well. And it's an art of suffering. Once we can skillfully relate to our suffering, then we perhaps in that find a sense of happiness, or a sense of contentment, or a sense of satisfaction. You may have different words. For many, I know happiness is such a trigger word. Maybe find your word for now and let it develop, and embrace it and practice and explore and investigate and continue. Continue with this rather than giving in or giving up, because there's nothing that you can fail at, right? So acknowledging that there is suffering, even though you are exploring and cultivating happiness, is something important, because as we are embracing and understanding our suffering, we are suffering less. Um, I remember from one of the courses of my teachers, Chris Germer, I think it was during my mindful self-compassion training. And that was really interesting what they said, that doing these practices actually is not about feeling happier. But we do the practice because we are suffering, and in a way because we embracing suffering through the practice, and acknowledging it and learning a way to be with it, then we also creating a different relationship to it. And a good side effect could also be that we feel happier. I know this sounds perhaps a little bit confusing or complicated, and I don't want to overcomplicate it. I think in the end, it is really about to fully experience it yourself. And that can only happen through the practice. Transforming suffering into understanding, into compassion, into joy for ourselves and also for others is really key, and it is possible. This is what I meant by it's a skill that everyone can learn. And I think you meet along the way, as soon as you create this expectation, okay, if I do this, then this and this outcome will be there, then I will be happier. If I keep myself busy and get this one task done, then I will be happier. And you perhaps can really easily relate to, if you do this on a daily basis, pushing yourself, just forcing something to happen with the belief or hope, then there will be ease, then there will be happiness, then there will be satisfaction. It may not happen. So you're creating an outcome that the mind is constantly checking in, and it may not be happy with the outcome. So it tells you, well, here you are, you probably should just do work harder or understand better. And then it gets you hooked into, okay, so if I don't understand better, then I might be, something wrong with my cognitions. I'm maybe not, I'm stupid, I'm failing at this, I can't even be happy, I can't even feel satisfied, and so on. And you can feel how it's sort of sucking you into this, and how it gets heavier and heavier, and that is draining, and it's very depleting. It takes a lot of energy, and it's very hard to come out of that hole. So for that in itself, you need a lot of compassion. But that's something that we want to do, and there's so much more perhaps to say. But the essence is really, we can develop the skill of happiness. We need to accept that suffering continues. We need to understand, if we embrace suffering with openness, curiosity, and compassion, then we will also perhaps get a sense of happiness and can accept both. We can condition our bodies, we can condition our minds to happiness with different practices. One thing is that whatever feels nice, whatever feels pleasant, it might be a tiny moment that normally would just get unnoticed. When you walk in the park, are you really walking there and taking in the environment and savoring that experience? Or are you just walking through the park on your way to work or to the shops or whatever? So both walks. You go deliberately to the park to have a nice walk, take it in deeply, really everything, make use of the senses. But also, if you have to walk through the park and you notice yourself rushing onto something, then that's the invitation to pause, to stop, and really take in your environment and use all the senses to fully absorb and savor this experience. Can be also, if you have some food, a cup of tea, or even water. Again, that is something that you perhaps just have to drink, and because you feel thirsty, but there is so much more to it. If you bring curiosity towards and really explore the sense of taste, what does water taste like, and so much more beyond, what does water give? It gives us life. And why is it so important? So if you just in that moment really take that fully in, stay curious, even taste it, and open up to the meaning of drinking water, where it's coming from, and bringing in gratitude that you are actually don't really have to think about where to get a glass of water from. You will go to the fridge, you go to the grab a bottle of water, and or go to the tap and just have some water, remembering how granted we take these things in our first world countries. And remember, there are so many countries who actually have to walk kilometers and kilometers to get a little bit of water back to their villages. And it's really good to keep this in mind, not to be on a guilt trip. It's not about it, but to enforce and to embrace and to celebrate a sense of gratitude and also savoring. And so these are the two parts. And it's important to cultivating, letting go, inviting positive seeds. This is more the savoring part of it. Bringing in mindfulness. This is a moment that you actually remember when you walk through the park or you have this glass of water. This is when you remember, oh, how about I give it a moment right now, right here, and really embrace this moment, and using my senses. If I drink a glass of water, what does it taste like? Appreciating where this water is coming from, being grateful that it's so easy to access that you don't even have to make an effort, and also feeling the water coming into your body, bringing life into the body, and maybe really feeling it as it is flowing through your mouth, through your throat, into your body. You might feel it. So that's what we mean by sort of mindfulness, and really concentrating on it, holding the focus of attention onto it. It's very important. The better you cultivate this part of your experience, concentration and focus, the more space you then have for some inside work and really investigate and embrace whatever is showing up. So, and this is what I thought would be our practice today, that we do a bit of mindfulness practice together. And I'm inviting you to take a seat that feels comfortable. You can also lay down. You can do choose a standing posture as well. That is absolutely fine. And just this matter of fact that you can be here now. Maybe you're live here or you're watching this playback later on. That you do have this time to pause, to stop, to embrace, to explore, to investigate happiness, to cultivate happiness. You may want to be grateful for this, that you have this opportunity and that you commit to yourself in this particular way. And just checking in with, okay, so what brings me here? Maybe have the one answer, and the answer that really makes totally sense to me, and then I feel happy. Well, that's perhaps not the session about. This session is really about to alert you to a few things, very basic things in regards to happiness, and giving you an opportunity to drop in once again with a like-minded community, and sort of embracing and cultivating a sense of self-compassion, joy, happiness, contentment, satisfaction, whatever you want to call it. And I'm offering you some guided prompts for the practice. And again, therefore, it's important that you really take your seat as you're now slowing down, making sure that you don't really get distracted if that is possible. You might be in your own room. Close the doors so people don't walk through your room. If you're sharing your accommodation, or you might be even outdoors, and then just plug in your earbuds and just simply listening to the instructions. Keep the eyes open or closed, whatever works for you right now. There is no right or wrong. As you know, people who know me, I'm always very passionate about sending this message out to you. There is no right or wrong. You cannot fail it. if you are inviting yourself to simply be here right now and investigate what it's like to be here and to develop the skill of happiness through also accepting, acknowledging, embracing suffering, because that in itself can be very transformative, and not having any expectations toward the outcome of the session, of the practice that we are going to do. I will take off myself so you just see the background screen, and as I'm taking you through, so that you don't really get distracted, you're hearing my voice, and then I will come back. So we have a bit of a, if you like, if you have some questions or comments you want to share, that would be lovely. So we can engage a little bit more, and I can attend to your comments or questions if you want me to. Okay, let's start now. And let me just bring up this quote from Thich Nhat Hanh, from Mathieu Ricard, that I mentioned at the beginning. Sharing the screen with you. Here it is. You don't really have to worry about this. Just settling in, taking your seat. And noticing how you're feeling right now. Maybe something is already echoing, resonating, or bringing up, and see whether you can simply, as you're noticing this and taking a comfortable position, kind of simply letting go and dropping into this one moment. Nothing else to do. And allowing your eyes to gently close fully or partially, tuning into the body, and allowing yourself to make adjustments to the way you are positioned to the body. And at the beginning of this practice might be very useful or beneficial to remember your intention for the practice. So the intention could be to bring some ease and some awareness to the now, to bring curiosity and a beginner's mind to the experience, and to be open to the unfolding experience. As you are taking your seat that is supporting you in your uprightness and supporting you in a sense of dignity and alertedness. So as I mentioned, there are different practices to cultivate happiness and steps involved. One is certainly to let go and to fully drop into this moment, and to also cultivate and practice concentration. And this is what we want to begin with. Whenever you're feeling ready, shifting the focus of attention onto the natural breathing. Noticing where you can feel the breath the most in the body. Without bringing any force, without any particular way of breathing, it's just really tuning in, descending awareness into the body and noticing where you can feel the breath the most. Maybe you notice the movement, the rising and the falling as the body is breathing. And noticing where you can feel that the most, the rising and falling in the stomach, abdomen, belly region. It might be also in the chest. You may notice the expansion, the contraction, as the body is inhaling and exhaling. So you may feel the entire front of the body rising and falling, the entire front of the upper body, the chest and the belly region kind of at the same time. You may feel one of the two regions a little bit more stronger, just noticing that. Or perhaps you're feeling the body breathing as it is entering the body through the nostrils. Maybe you can feel a slight tickle as the air comes in and feeling a little bit of warmth as the air is exiting the body. So just for now, choosing one part of the three areas that I've just mentioned, nostrils, chest, or abdomen, to keep the focus of attention on and to feel the body breathing. And see whether you can stay with the breath all the way through. And if the mind is wandering, then this can happen. This is quite common, right? This is, even though you're sitting here meditating with the best intentions, you're experiencing there's always something that you cannot control. So the mind is wondering if that happens. Would it be possible to be open to it, to acknowledge mind wandering, and then to choose where you want to place your attention on, the mind wandering and getting lost, or shifting the focus of attention back to the breath and following it and its movement through and in the body. And if you need a little extra, you can breathe in with awareness, and as you exhaling, you could count or can count one in your head. Breathing in with awareness, exhaling, counting one in your head. With the next exhale, count 2. You can count up to 10. And then starting again at 1. Breathing in awareness, counting 1 as you're exhaling, and continuing up to 10, and then starting back at 1 again. The interesting part here is that, as I mentioned, concentration is very important before we can do insight work. The counting is just another way. It's not about measuring how good you are as a meditator. It's not about it. It is just showing you what is happening with the attention, with the quality of attention. And it is also giving you an opportunity to repetitively, if you're noticing mind wandering, attention wandering, repetitively to shifting the focus of attention back to the breath, and then simply beginning again, breathing in awareness, counting to one if that's something you prefer to keep it a little bit more stimulating, or just simply focusing on one of the area and noticing the rising and falling movement, or how the air is slightly cooler on the in breath and warmer on the out breath, whatever works for you. So when the mind wanders, again, would it be possible to see this as an opportunity for you to cultivate mindfulness, because that's a noticing part, noticing the mind wandering, and concentration, because each time you notice mind wandering, you are strengthening your capacity to recognize the experience, and then to choose. You are in charge to choose to shift the focus back, bring the mind back to the breath. This is helping us to strengthen and foster the capacity to focus and concentrate on one object. And this is just the example that I mentioned. You could treat mind wandering and see it as a kind of a suffering, and then you could get so upset about it or reactive to it. And here is the experience for you, and the opportunity to see that this happens no matter, and an opportunity for you to cultivate kindness and compassion as soon as you're noticing mind wandering, suffering, and shifting the focus back to an anchor, the breath now in this practice right now, to strengthen the capacity to concentrate is one part to on the way to happiness. And when you're feeling ready, you may want to bring to mind something small or simple that brings back a moment of happiness. Inviting the opportunity to remember bringing up something that is maybe very small, very simple, that could give you a sense of happiness or joy, that brings back a memory, and letting the attention resting on this memory and letting it be felt. And if nothing comes to mind, that is totally fine. Maybe then some small thing that you take for granted you could bring up right now to actually acknowledge it, appreciate it. The matter of fact that you perhaps breathing could create a moment of gratefulness, gratitude, appreciation, or that you can open and close your eyes, that you can decide how much information through sight you want to take in or not. Again, it may sound like nothing, but it's actually really important that we again take for granted the capacity to close the eyes, to let the eyelids cover our eyeballs is pretty remarkable. And that we can decide whether we want to do it or not. So if nothing else comes to mind, or maybe you have a small memory, something that comes up right now, something small, simple, that actually made you feeling happy. And as you're kind of reliving this moment, simple moment of happiness, joyfulness, gratitude, or appreciation, you're welcome to bringing in some phrases of appreciation. You can direct those phrases in silence toward yourself. You can simply listen to the phrases that I'm going to offer to you, let them just resonate. You could even direct these phrases to your inner self, your adult self, your younger self, or even your older self to remember. May I be happy. May my happiness continue. May I be present for my joy. May I appreciate the joy in my life. So you can recite and just repeat these phrases over and over, but also with your own words. They might be different. May I be happy. May I be content. May my sense of contentment continue. May I be present for my contentment. May I appreciate contentment in my life. May I be joyful. May my joyfulness continue. May I be present for my joy. May I appreciate joy in my life. And taking note of what this feels like. What is this generating inside, sensations that are generated as you are offering these phrases silently in your head to your heart and connecting with this intention to appreciate, to be grateful, to cultivate happiness, to develop happiness, to develop that skill of happiness. And if you like, you can bring to mind a good friend. So we can directing this to a good friend. It might be even your pet. And connecting with your natural desire to be this person or pet experiencing happiness, joy, contentment, peace. Just really connecting with the reality that this person or pet, like us, wants to be happy. And with intention, cultivating this intention, you can bring up this person or pet in front of your mind's eye and just directing these phrases towards them if you would like to bring this into your practice. May you be happy. May your happiness continue. May you appreciate your happiness. I am happy for you. Or finding your own words that you would like to send out. Over and over again, directing it toward your friend or your pet. Sending them a dose of happiness. And expanding this even further, letting this person or the pet go from your mind and bringing to mind a neutral person. So really expanding. Maybe a person that you see at the shops but you don't really know very well. Maybe even the neighbor. And even though you don't know this person, you can recognize this person that wants to be happy as well. And if you are open to this, then offering this person the same phrases and connecting as you're sending out the phrases to them, connecting with the intention to care about and rejoice in their happiness. May you be happy. May your happiness continue. May you appreciate your joy. I am happy for you. And again, as you are sending out these wishes, phrases to this person or animal, even if there is no person that you can think of right now that you don't know very well, you can also send it to an animal whatever feels right for you. Or you can just also choose, maybe go back to just wishing yourself well. Because this is often what we struggle with, sending, cultivating happiness for ourselves. Or sending it out to a loved one, a friend, or your pet. And including yourself, may you and I be happy. May your and my happiness continue. May you and I appreciate our happiness. May we be happy for each other. And when you're feeling ready, directing the focus of attention back to the breath. And noticing what this practice, if anything, has offered you. How is it resonating? And let me conclude with these words that have been written by Christian Larson, The Optimist Creed. Promise yourself. Promise yourself to be so strong that nothing can disturb your peace of mind. To talk health, happiness, and prosperity to every person you meet. To make all your friends feel that there is something in them. To look at the sunny side of everything and make your optimism come true. To think only of the best, to work only for the best, and to expect only the best. To be just as enthusiastic about the success of others as you are about your own. To forget the mistakes of the past and press on to the greater achievements for the future. To wear a cheerful countenance at all times and give every living creature you meet a smile. To give so much time to the improvement of yourself that you have no time to criticize others. To be too large for worry, too noble for anger, too strong for fear, and too happy to permit the presence of trouble. So, Thank you so much for taking the time and tuning in, for practicing, pausing and stopping, and really making this dedicated day to happiness, a dedicated day to happiness, even though it may trigger a reaction. See whether you can remember the intention of the practice. Remember that happiness is a skill, with Mathieu Ricard's words, and every skill can be developed. So even if you don't feel happy right now, there is a way to happiness that can be learned. And even if you feel happy and then also experience suffering, to remember that suffering will continue. But through the practice, letting go, concentration and focus, mindfulness, insight work, you are cultivating happiness and remembering every tiny moment, the smallest and the simplest thing that perhaps often gets unnoticed. Any moment you catch it, any moment you notice, that's the moment of mindfulness. And then there's your choice to fully savor it. And it can be as simple as possible. It can be just this glass of water, this sip of water that offers you an opportunity to be mindful, to taste it fully, to go beyond. And that in itself could create a moment of appreciation, joy, and happiness. You can teach the brain to be happy. This does not happen overnight. The good news is it is possible without any forceful effort. The moment is presenting to yourself. The opportunity is presenting to yourself. You just have to see it, to feel it, to taste it, to smell it, to hear it, and to notice it. And once you can do that, you can take it from there. Embrace it, live it, expand on it, savor it, absorb it. And that might work in this very moment, and the next moment there is suffering again. Don't give in. Remember, even if you feel happy in one moment, suffering continues and it may come up next moment. The way how you attend to suffering as well is helping you developing greater happiness. And